Welcome back to Garage Noise, and on this episode we're going to continue on the Chevy paint restoration project. We're going to finish this bedside today. We've got it's mostly ready, but there's a few little body areas that need to be taken care of, some chips and scratches, and then we're going to paint it. So stay tuned. There's going to be a lot of information in this video, and I think you're going to be amazed by the results. It's going to be quite a transformation on this bedside. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do on this bedside is I've put a little icing on this. It had some wavy areas, so we're going to block this out with some 180 on a long block. We're going to use the X pattern that I typically use to get it straight, and then we'll have to reprime this. So let's get started. Okay, so now we've got this blocked out nice and straight. We've broken through a couple areas here, but that's not a problem because we're going to prime this with some 2K primer. And most of this is covered by the running boards. But we'll go ahead and prime this, but I want to go ahead and I filled a couple little chips and nicks throughout this panel that we're going to take care of. We're going to reprime this area. And then you can see here, there's a little nick there, if you can see that. So we're going around, and I'm going to block this a little bit with some 320. So I'm going to block this with some 320 on this small block here. It's got a little wave to it, so we're going to straighten it out. But we also have like some fiberglass that we repaired right here. We're going to block that out with the 320. And then probably put one more coat of primer over this entire panel, just as a precaution, so I can go over and hit it lightly with some 320, and then go over it with some 600 without taking a lot of primer off. So we're going to go through, block it, knock down any of these areas we filled with icing, and then we'll reprime this. And then this should be almost ready, just a final sand with 320 and 600, and it'll be ready for spray, and we'll move on to the next panel. Okay, so now we have this all sanded. I did have to fill a few areas. There was a little bit of irregularity there, so I filled that with some icing. We're going to block that out, but this is pretty much ready for primer. So now we're going to go ahead and move on to the tailgate, and I'm going to sand this with 320 on the orbital sander. It's been 2K primed. It's got a little ding here that we're repairing. But I'm going to sand all the primer and get that prepped out for paint while this dries. So we have these running boards for the Chevy pickup that we've went ahead and prepped for primer. We've sanded the running boards with 320 grit sandpaper on the orbital sander. We've removed any of the peeling paint, any damaged areas. There are a few minor fiberglass cracks which we're going to repair after we primer, but we're going to get a good coat of, 2 good coats of primer on these and get them ready for paint. So let's go ahead and do that now. We're gonna spray these running boards with 2K primer. That's a 2-part catalyzed primer that's gonna harden over the fiberglass of these running boards and create a good base for us to block sand them smooth and remove any imperfections. So let's go ahead and spray it now. Okay, so now what we need to do, I've cleaned out the bed. We need to do one final sand on this bedside. I'm gonna go over this with 600 grit sandpaper on the dual action sander, and then I may even go over it and wet sand this with 600. That's why I put one more coat of primer on this, just so I would have a little bit more material to touch up any scratches that there may be. I'm gonna go look around. It looks like there's a little pin mark right there. I need to smooth a little poly putty in that. This bedside is pretty much done. I may just wet sand this with 600 because I've already went over it with 600. You've seen that in another video. And if you haven't seen that video on how to prep for paint, you can check it out at the end. So I'm excited to get some color on this. I am gonna have to clean this floor. There's a lot of dust on this floor, so I'm gonna wash it out, move all these lines, wash out the floor, wet it down before I start spraying. Okay, so now we have this all sanded with 600. I went over any hard to reach areas with 320 because I want to make sure those get sanded real well so the paint adheres properly, especially like in this groove or in this groove right here, or these hard to reach areas. All sanded with 320 will be painted over with 320. Now, what I want to do is I want to take some prep solvent, some wax and grease remover, and I'm going to wipe this entire panel down. And what that's going to do is just remove any dust, clean it so I can look and see if there's any imperfections in this primer. Okay, so now we're about ready to paint. I went ahead and finished sanding this with 600 grit and a scuff pad and went around all the areas that I needed to make sure it was sanded properly. Done the tailgate, that's ready. We gotta just do some taping. This side is all ready. I've run some lights around here so I have a little bit more light, and I'm gonna be using that Gunbudd on my gun, so that'll be helpful. But there's some primered areas here I need to sand out. to get this ready, but this side's all ready. So I've washed this with wax and grease remover entirely. And so I've went around and I've already washed this with wax and grease remover. Of course, we're gonna use a tack rag and tack it off before we start spraying. I've wet down the floor. So next we're gonna spray it. Let's go ahead and mix up our paint and spray it. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk to you about is the paint that I'm using. I'm going to start giving you the materials that I use, what I use, so you can just be more informed on the products. I'm using a Valspar base coat. It's LVBR 100 series. It is, and this particular color is Bahama Blue Metallic. The paint code is WA 9656. It's a really pretty color. When you'll see in the finished product at the end, this color is just amazing. I love this color if you like blues. And as far as the Valspar base coat, I usually have pretty good luck with Valspar as far as the color match. It covers pretty well. It's not the best, but it's also not the most expensive paint, so just keep that in mind. So I'll just tell you a little bit of how I like to go about painting when I'm doing a larger project like this. What I want to do is I want to go over any of the areas that I think are going to be easily missed, where you might not see. They might be transparent, they might be hard to see. So first what I'll do is try and go in and cut in those areas. Like I opened up that gas lid door and I cut in there. I'm going to do around the wheel openings. I'm going to do all the low areas. In the grooves where moldings go. So I'm going to go over anywhere I think might get missed or might be easily missed in the painting process. Any cracks or grooves or crevices, you want to make sure, especially if it's all primered, you want to make sure you're getting in all those hard to reach areas with color, so you don't have a problem where you can see the primer through your paint or in any of those cracks. So that's what I'm doing first, and then I'm going to put a good coat of base on it, just a medium to wet coat. So you don't want to put your first coat on real heavy. If you put it on real heavy, there's a good chance it could react, or you might get these fish eyes in your paint from just being put on too wet. So you really want like a medium coat on your first coat. Let it flash good, and that'll give it a good base to build up on your second coat and your third coat, because I will have to do at least 3 coats on this base. So as far as the gun setup, when I'm spraying my base coat, I'm going to do 3 turns out on the base coat, get a good coat on there. I'm going to do a wide open fan pattern on this. Now if I'm going to try and when I'm cutting it in at the beginning, I'm turning my spray pattern down so it's a more focalized spray pattern, so I can get in all the grooves and the hard to reach areas. But then I'm going to open it up to a full open wide pattern when I'm spraying the rest of the panel. My air pressure is, I believe, was like 22 psi when I was spraying. So that's a good range to start with, is between 20 and 25 psi. Of course you can adjust that as you go along if you think you've got too much air pressure, and as you gain experience you'll know more about adjusting pressure on the fly when you need to. So the equipment I'm using for spraying this is going to be the Astro Euro HE spray gun. It's working very well for me right now, and I just want to get some experience with it so I can, tell you guys how good a gun it is. And I've had no problems with it so far at all. I like it. It might not atomize quite as well as some of the more expensive guns, but as you can see, and you'll see in the finished product, it creates a really nice finish. I'm also using the Gunbudd. That's the light that's on the cup, and That's something I added to in the last video, and I figured I would try it on this overall paint job, and it really worked well. It really helped out in those low areas, and so I really like it. So this particular color is a high metallic, high pearl color. You want to, on those high metallics colors, you want to make sure you're overlapping the 60%, that you have a consistent spray pattern, that you're staying as parallel to the panel as you possibly can, and then you're overlapping and you have a consistent speed. This will give you a nice even metallic finish that's going to create a better paint job for you. It's going to look better. It's going to eliminate the metallic tiger stripes or metallic modeling that make a paint job look horrible. So just keep that in mind when you're spraying. Everything doesn't have to go perfectly. You don't have to do every absolute thing correctly, but the more you're aware of it and the more things you do correctly, the better your paint job's going to turn out. At the end of this video, I will leave a link to another video that will show you all the things that will ruin your DIY paint job and how to avoid those. So here you can see where that Gunbudd light is really lighting up the panel. In fact, there's a couple areas of this video where I forgot to turn it on, and I get down to the lower part of that bedside, and it's harder to see, and I remember, oh, I better turn my light on, and I turned that on, and it really helped out. So, and as always, all the links to the products and the tools that I use are going to be in the description below. I'm not going to be able to leave you links for the clear, which I really wish I could, because the new clear I'm using is awesome. I will give you a shot of what it is. I'll tell you what it is, tell you the part number, so you can get it yourself, but it's a really excellent clear. So some of the materials and the Valspar paint, you know, you're just going to have to make that decision for yourself. Talk to your paint suppliers what's going to be right for you, and they'll give you a good idea of what you should be using. But I will leave every link that I can in the description below. Okay, so now it's time to clear. The clear I'm using is new to me. This is my second or third vehicle I'm using it on, but I'm using it specifically for this because it's a very durable clear. It is a V series. It's made by Valspar, European 4.2 VOC clear coat. I'm going to flash up a picture of it right here. So if you want to try and find that for your project, there you go. You have the information you need. I'll tell you a little bit about it. It's a high solids clear. I think it's like 48% solids. It comes in, that is a 1.9 liter, a 5 liter, I'm sorry, 5 liter. So it's almost 2 gallons. It's like 1.9 gallons of clear coat, and it was $150, which is really reasonable. I'm going to tell you what, it flows out very nice. It's very hard to run. The last paint job I did, I really laid the clear on really hard, and it did not run. And there's a lot of variables for that, but the last clear I was using, which the U-pull, it's a lot less forgiving as far as that. So this clear checks all the boxes for me. It's reasonably priced. It's a high solids clear, so it's going to be really durable. It cuts and buffs nice, and it's easy to cut and buff. That's important. And that it has a nice flow coat. It flows out really well. So those are what I look for. So this is checks all the boxes for me. It might be something you might be interested in. And so you know, I am not sponsored by Valspar. I wish I was, but I'm not. So this is a unbiased opinion, just my unbiased opinion. So when you're laying down the first coat of clear, You want to put it on medium. You're not looking to put it on really wet where it'll flow out really nice on the first coat. You just want to get a good base on there, get it sticky for the second coat, and then you can hit it harder on the second coat. Some people put 2 coats on, some people put 3. Typically with this clear, I can put 2 coats on. The last flow coat, real heavy, and it flows out really nice, and that's plenty of material for protection and for buffing. So as you can see, this paint's turning out really nice. The clear's flowing out really well, and look how pretty that color is. I just can't get over this color. It's vibrant. The pearls in it are just amazing. It really has a deep color, and the gloss is with this Valspar clear is just amazing. So it's starting to look really well, and I think this is the flow coat, the final coat of clear coat. And as you can see, I'm just slowing down just a tad and putting it on a little bit heavier. Keep your distance the same as you spray. You want to be 4 to 5 inches away. Consistent speed, overlap 60%, and you can see how it's flowing out as you're spraying, and that's kind of how you judge your air pressure and if you're spraying it properly. So if you have to do, or if you get to do a overall paint job on your truck or vehicle, I would say you want to practice. You want to get an old hood or an old fender and do some testing. Practice spraying your clear coats so you know what you're doing. You can practice adjusting your gun, changing the volume, the air pressure, and see what works for you and how you spray and what gives you the best result. And for whatever reason, if your clear doesn't come out perfect, if it has some dust or some orange peel, don't worry about that. I've got some videos that'll show you exactly how to take care of that. So clear coat's pretty forgiving. If it's not perfect, you can repair it. You know, you can wet sand out dust or orange peel or anything like that, and you can still make it look very, very nice, so you can't even tell. So don't worry about it. In fact, I'll leave some videos in the description if you're interested in those. Those will help you to increase your knowledge and build your skill. Okay, so let's check out the finished product. And look at that color. Isn't that a gorgeous color? I just love it. It has a nice shine, nice gloss. Those pearls really pop in this color. And that clear coat, that Valspar clear, looks amazing. So listen up. If you want to increase your knowledge and build your skill, start now and subscribe to the channel. Click the bell so you don't miss anything. I appreciate each and every one of you watching. Do me a favor, like and share this video, and stay tuned for the rest of this Chevy paint restoration project. We'll see you next time.